G'day, I'm Mike Cusack, Expedition Leader with Aurora Expeditions, and I'm just about to commence my 19th season on the Kimberley coast. The whole concept of the Year in the Wilderness was Dick Smith's idea. A lot of it came from the fact that as a kid he really enjoyed the book Robinson Crusoe, and he'd also recently just read a book about a Canadian couple who'd spent 12 months living above the Arctic Circle, and they constructed a log cabin and the like. And what Dick wanted was to see if the modern urban couple still had that pioneering spirit of adventure, and that became the Year in the Wilderness. At that stage, Susan and I had been separated for 4 years. We found out about it principally through Susan's sister, because she'd been a founding subscriber to Australian Geographic magazine. This was in 1986, it was in the 4th edition, so in October 1986. Just a small ad there, a couple wanting to have the experience of a lifetime in the wilderness. Bronwyn thought, what a great way to get them back together. We'll send them out in the scrub for 12 months. Basically, once we were chosen, it was up to us to organise everything, to organise getting into the place, to getting across there, to getting whatever we wanted to take. We knew we would need a boat, we knew we'd need a co-down radio to keep in touch with the flying doctor service, we knew we would need solar panels to charge things up, and pretty much the food supply for 12 months, and all of that of course would be dehydrated, dried stuff. Wasn't much expertise going into it. We got to Cunmunnya in the middle of the year, so pretty much the start of the dry season. Cunmunnya itself, it had been a mission, but they'd dismantled everything in 1950 and relocated down to a place called Munja on Walcott Inlet. I'm extraordinarily lucky that for the last 19 years I've been able to relive a certain part of it, because working with Aurora Expeditions and given that opportunity to do the 3 voyages each year, and each of those voyages we walk back into Cunmunnya. We do an 11-kilometre walk, and for a lot of people it's the highlight of their voyage. The conditions we experienced over that year you could really only describe as dry. As it turned out, it was the driest year in 30 years. It was a very poor wet season. The thing about the Kimberley is that it's principally rock, particularly the West Kimberley. It doesn't have a water table, that there's sort of really no underground aquifer or whatever. And most of the creeks and river systems are in a rock bed, so that when the evaporation comes in, it just goes. What we did to, I guess, put our stamp on it was build our house. It had a roof, no walls, but it had a floor, and building that really put our mark on the place. After the bushfire that came through in September, I found a small spring which is about 3 kilometres from our camp, and for over 3 months every afternoon I'd have to go across there for water, and I could carry about 19 litres, and that got us through that pretty harsh time. We would start work fairly early, like 6 o'clock or so, and work until it got too warm. Because as the year progressed, we were getting further and further into the dry season. So by October, our minimum overnight temperature was 20 odd degrees, and temperatures of 34, 35, and just getting increasingly so. So, I mean, there would be days we would try and work 8 hours a day, but sometimes you'd have to take the next day off to recover from it. I mean, certainly the physical work was hard, but to an extent that's just physical work, and if you rest up you can get over that. But the dehydration, that sort of chronic level of dehydration for relatively long periods of time, that affects you in other ways as well, and I think trying to get through that was the hard point of it. Obviously, looking back on it, the whole thing was just one extraordinary experience. And it's almost a cliche to say that it was a life-changing experience, but it was. If I was given the chance to do it again, yes, I would do it again. And Susan would as well, because I mean we'd always had this dream of having a place in the bush, and what better place than way out here in the Kimberley. My advice to anyone looking for adventure is just go out and do it. For us it was a life-changing experience, and it's given us the limits that we know we can push beyond. And so just get out there and do it, because the experience will be very positive. It was just extraordinary.